Okay, welcome to Security Basics Crash Course for end users. One of the things I recommend is not to make many changes while we are talking today. There might be some things that you want to go ahead and check out. Feel free to click along side by side with me, but be careful what you change or don't change because you want to make sure that you know what you are changing. And for folks coming in, we just got started. Feel free to send questions into the chat. And if you can mute your microphone when you get to it. And we are recording, so feel free to toggle your camera off if you are more comfortable that way. But the recording should just be focused on my voice since I'm the one speaking right now. Okay, so let's get to it. So a couple different topics I'm hoping to cover and do a little bit more of a just overview for us today, but we'll dive into a couple different things. I'm hoping to leave a little bit of space for questions that you might have that you could throw in the chat or into the Q&A, and we could answer those as we go. I'm going to touch on security and privacy checkup and some of those recommendations, password recommendations, two-step verification, and then a little bit about Gmail, spam, safety, and the filtering, how to safely share with Drive, and how to secure your calendar. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So when it comes to the security and privacy checkup, this is a great account feature that's on all Google accounts, whether it's a personal account or an enterprise account, to get a couple different safety security features and recommendations from Google saying like, hey, you should probably do this. So the security checkup, I like to think of as, how can I ensure my account is safe and secure? And the privacy checkup is a little bit more about, how can I ensure my privacy and my data is safe and secure? So I want to demo a little bit what that looks like. The security looks a lot like email notification, recovery email, two-step verification, things like that. So here's my test account. And to get here, when I'm logged in, I can click on my little N up here anytime and click Manage Your Google Account, and it's going to bring you to this page. A couple different ways to get to where we're going. There are these tabs over on the side. The security tab is going to really get into what we're looking for in the data and personalization. But these little tiles that they have right here are really helpful too. So we have your account is protected. If you were to go into there, you might have some recommendations. You can see, okay, do I have a recovery email set up and a phone number? Do I have devices set up, and do I recognize all the devices that are connected to my account? So recovery email, really good thing to make sure you have in there so you don't get locked out of your account, and maybe a recovery phone number. And then if you don't have it on already, you might see two-step verification in there. If I pop over to security over on the side here, we can see a little bit more about two-step verification that we're going to talk about in a little bit. So we have two-step verification here that we could toggle on and off. So those tiles at the beginning are really helpful. But if you go click into security, you could see a couple of different things here, more about your security. And then I'm going to go back to home, and you can see the privacy and personalization and the privacy suggestions. They're basically bringing you to the same place. They just look a little bit different. I'm going to review this one suggestion. And you can see it talks about having ad personalization on. That is something that Google offers to offer ads that are based on your interest, based on your search history. Some folks like that on, some folks like that off. You do that with that what you please. But they are using that so that your ads are more relevant, but it is also based off of your data. And then there's other privacy settings down here too that I really think you should check out. Web and app activity. So how much of your activity in Google Maps and others are being tracked, like your Chrome history and things like that. Do you want that on? Do you want that off? Do you want to pause it? Location history, same thing. If you're using Google Maps on your phone and you're signed into your Google Maps app with your account, do you want that location history saved? That could be helpful for refining those addresses, but it could also be a data trove of everywhere you've traveled. So do you want that on? Do you want that off? It's a balance of security versus convenience, and everybody's doing things. Everybody has a different preference on that. And then YouTube history, similar thing. Do you want to save that history? And then we can get a little bit more into your control what others see about you. not going to click through this too much right now, but you can click through this, edit what others see about you, and it'll show you a little bit about what data are others seeing about you, mainly your email, your name, things like that. But go ahead and check that out and make sure that you are comfortable with what others are seeing about you. And I just want to just make sure you see under data and personalization here, these are the same features that we kind of just reviewed, but they're laid out in a different, maybe a little bit more of a digestible way. So go ahead and check out these account settings. Make sure they are what you want them to be. All right. Again, if you have any questions, please throw them in the chat or in the Q&A. And if anybody has anything, just feel free to bump me. All right, let's keep on moving. So a little bit about passwords. I know that this is nothing new to anybody, but there is some new information that's come out in the last couple of years. So the biggest thing that I want to talk about is the NIST, the standards that have come out, which is National Institute of Science and Technology, showing that frequent password change requirements reinforce poor password practices. So you know, we used to think, okay, let's have folks change their passwords every 4 hours. Not that extreme, but you know what that generally creates is folks putting a 1, a 2, a 3 at the end, or things like that aren't necessarily more secure because they're predictable patterns. So you know, they talk a little bit about what are things that are better than frequent password changes. The thing that's come up a lot is length. So length is really, really important. So, you know, we talk a little bit about at least 8 characters. And, you know, I know generally that's been the basics for a while, but, you know, the length is so huge. So making sure that your password is at least 8 characters. If 12 should be much better. And anything obviously beyond that is going to be really, really super. And there might be some enforcement on your domain that's already telling you, hey, it needs to be 10, it needs to be 12 characters. Complexity. So it used to be this, we need to make our passwords super complex that I won't even remember them if it's written down in front of me. You know, we've decided that, like, again, through these studies that have come through, that these are helpful, but length is better. Length is better. If it's very random, that's great. But if you can't remember it, then that's not going to make a big difference. Avoiding common dictionary words, right? Don't just put, you know, my dog's name is Spot the Avenger. Like, great, that's like 25 characters, but those are all dictionary words that could be cycled through if somebody wanted to go ahead and figure out your password. So avoiding those common dictionary words. Don't reuse passwords. I know it's really easy. It's really a bad habit to break, but try not to be reusing passwords. Again, some of these things are very obvious, but it's really good to just hear them in a new light. Password managers. If you haven't jumped on the password manager train, now might be the time. I highly, highly recommend it. It makes my life a lot easier because I don't remember my passwords aside from my 1 or 2 master passwords, because everything else auto-populates. And you might say, okay, well, if it's saved somewhere, then it's not safe, it's not secure. Well, they're all really long, complex, random characters, and they're saved in password managers that encrypt them, and they're very, very stored. So I just need to remember 1 complex password to get into my account, and then I have access to all of my passwords without even have to worry about it. And none of them are the same, so if 1 account gets breached, they're not all getting breached. On the side there, I put a couple of the more common password managers that you might want to check out. And I'll just show you quickly where the Chrome password manager is if you want to use something a little bit more lightweight. If I'm in my account here in Chrome, if I click my little N at the very top, there's a little key that brings me to my password manager site within Chrome, and you could toggle it on and off in your settings here. Okay. And then the last but not least is password screening. I'm not sure if anybody, I'm curious if anybody has done any password screening sites like this, like Have I Been Pwned, where you enter your email into a website that searches for all known, and Paul, I see your question, give me one moment, for all known breaches out there. And they've recently partnered with the FBI to make that database much, much more robust. So going to a site like Have I Been Pwned and putting your Awesome. Thanks, Paul. And putting your email in, right? And I'm going to say, have I been pwned? And good news, that I haven't been shown. My email address hasn't shown up in any breaches. But I guarantee you, if you do this with your personal account, if your personal account is signed up for almost anything, it will show up on this list. But it's really good and empowering to know what of your data is out there and what passwords may or may be out there. So I highly recommend checking out the Have I Been Pwned site. I'm glad to hear, Paul, that you've at least played with a site, if not this one, which is really, really super. So Have I Been Pwned, super duper. Okay, great. I'm going to keep on scrolling through unless folks do have questions. Awesome. Paul, is that your consent? Would you like me to do that for you? I can do that here right on the call. I want to get an affirmative yes that you want me to put that on there before I actually go ahead and do that. Is that a yes, Paul? Would you like me to put that in for you? Oh, sure, great, yeah, absolutely. There we go. 18 data breaches, right? And and the most common one is Adobe. If you've ever had an Adobe account, and essentially in the last 10 years, you're going to be a part of that. So thank you, Paul, for adding a demo in there for us. Really, really helpful. Okay, so I want to keep on scrolling through, and again, feel free to throw any questions you have. I want to talk a little bit about two-step verification. So an interesting note, if you remember a couple months back, the Colonial Pipeline hack that happened, we found that the hackers were able to get into and disrupt that fuel supply chain just by stealing one single password. One, not two, not four, not a password and a phone and a special key, just one password. So one password just isn't enough anymore for anything that's of real value. So there's a good chance that you have two-step verification enforced on your business domain. Maybe not, but a good chance you do. And it's really, really helpful to have this set up. I want to talk a little bit about the methods that you can use for two-step verification, and then just quickly click through the thing. So the most secure that isn't used in a ton of places just because of how complex it can be for an organization is security keys. Security keys are these little USB keys. I don't have one in front of me, where you essentially plug it in. It looks like a flash drive. You plug it into your computer, and that's your second form of verification. Getting into a little bit more of the mainstream, using authenticator apps or Google Gmail prompts, where you sign in to an app on your phone, and you just get a prompt on your phone saying, yes, actually, this is me, when you're going in and signing in. So that way you put your password in on the computer, and then you also have to verify on your phone, yes, this is me. And then the least secure and probably the most common is using text messaging, where you put your cell phone number in, they text you a 6-digit code, and you can go ahead and get it. And we say it's the least secure because it is an easy thing for folks to hack, to be able to spoof your cell phone number and be able to get your text messages. In the grand scheme of things, that is the easiest thing for folks to be able to get around. I want to show you quickly how to do this if you don't know how to set it up. And then I would say the most important thing is don't just enable this for your business account. Enable it for your banking, your personal email, your social media, your retirement account, your Nest camera, anything you could possibly think of that you don't want anybody else to get into. So if I go back into my Google account up here, and if I go to security, I can scroll down to two-step verification. And you'll see it says, great, add an extra layer of verification, get started. And then when you're on that page, you have to go ahead and sign in. You can choose, do I want to use text message? Do I want to use Google prompt? What would I like to use? And you can go ahead and get it there. So that's that account page we were talking about before. Great. I'm just going to keep on rolling through to make sure that I get through everything I have and answer any questions that you may have about this or anything else. Feel free to stop me, folks. I'm happy to just sit and chat. So a little bit about Gmail safety, security, and some filtering. So you can see a little bit of a stat over on the side there about email spoofing and how important sifting out spam and phishing and things like that is in the world right now. So I just want to talk a little bit about how you can navigate Gmail safety features and spam features. So probably one of the easiest things you can do is if you are using Gmail or Google Mail for your email, to be using all of the native platforms. Use the mobile app, use the website. Don't use Mac Mail, don't use Outlook, don't use your iPhone Mail or anything like that, because it's just not going to have all the same robust features built into it for your safety, whether that's filtering out spam, categorizing emails, whatever it is. You're just not going to get all of that it's offering. So that's kind of the easiest one out there. Gmail's automatically identifying suspicious emails and marking them as spam, and you're going to necessarily get all of those same protections if you're not using their products. And then I want to talk a little bit about the spam folder. We all know where the spam folder is because you're going to get that email from someone that says, hey, check your spam folder. I sent it to you, I promise. But sometimes if you've got a lot of labels in your inbox, it's hard to find that spam folder. So I'm going to just jump over to my email for a second here. This is the #1 thing I show my teachers and my employees when I onboard them. Over here I see starred, snooze, sent. This is all really great stuff, but I don't see my spam right here. I got to click more. And then if you got a bunch of labels, you got to scroll down like 7 years, and then you find spam. What I tell folks to do right away is to go into settings. I'm going to do it right here. And then hit see all settings to get into your real settings. And then I'm going to go over to labels. And then here you should see these system labels, right? And then a little bit further down, we see spam and trash. And they're set on hide. And what hide means is that it's not showing up in these first 5 things. But as soon as you click show next to spam and trash, they are here forever as if they are pinned onto your arm. You don't have to go ahead and click more to go scroll past all your labels and find them. They're right here. It's really easy to see that spam number go up as the week goes on and be able to check and make sure that thing is missing. I highly recommend this. It is such a silly little thing that makes such a huge difference when you're trying to check spam. So you can see what's in there, what's not in there. See, the Gmail team is spam to me, and I added them in there. Great. I want to talk a little bit about how to report spam, phishing, and blocking emails, and how to unmark spam as well. And then maybe we'll get a second to dive into some filtering, but we'll see if we get there. So if I go into an email, I'm going to go into this really awesome not spam email that I sent to myself. And there's a couple different things. You could click this report spam button up here. It only reports it as spam. If you click in here, you get a lot more options. So you can report it as a spam, you can report it as phishing, which is really, really helpful. And then if you have an email from somebody else, can I block Gmail? Yeah, I could also block the Gmail team. So if you don't want anything else from that email address ever, you could also block that. If you report it as spam, report it as phishing, you can go ahead and get it out of your inbox and help Google learn. They're like, hey, that's probably not good stuff. And then if you accidentally send something spam, it's not an issue. Just like make sure that if you want to save it, within 30 days, you do that because stuff is automatically deleted after 30 days. I'm going to go into my Gmail inbox, into spam, and I'm going to click here and say report not spam, or if that banner is missing for some reason, you could say not spam up here, and you can go ahead and move it out. You could still always block it and report it as phishing, even when it's marked as spam when it's in there. So there's a couple different little things in here. I want to show one quick thing about filtering. If you want to go ahead and automatically filter things as not spam or whatever, let's say I go into this Gmail team and I want to say that everything from them is going to be safe. So I'm going to click into this message. I'm going to click this top bar up here and filter messages like these. And what that's going to do is it's essentially just going to search for everything from that email address. And then I want to create a filter. And now I can do anything I want with this. So I want to never send it to spam. And I want to apply it to everything that's happened in the past. And I also want to star it. So now if I hit create filter, anything that comes from mail-no reply at Google will be starred. It will never be sent to spam. And I'll do it for everything that I've already gotten. I hit create filter. which is really, really helpful if you want to go ahead and use, you've got messages coming from a particular user, and every now and then they get caught in spam and you're not sure why. Set up a filter, make sure that you're getting the emails that you need to get, and they'll always be there for you. Filtering it can be really, really powerful. There are a lot of different ways to use it, but that's just one quick way. And the last thing that I think is really, really important is undo. If you send something and you didn't mean to, you have that 3 to 5 seconds or whatever it is on your domain to undo that send. Please make sure you don't forget about that button that shows up on the bottom left, right? I'm going to send myself an email. I'm going to go ahead and click send. And on that bottom there, you're going to hit undo, 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 and we click that. So don't forget about your undo button. I'm sure you all know it very well, but don't forget about that. Okay, great. I'm going to keep going. I've got 2 more quick sections with Drive and Calendar. And then if folks have any questions, I know we started about 5 minutes late while folks are moving over from YouTube, so we can go ahead and answer those as they come in. Safe sharing with Drive. So there's a couple different things I just want to touch on here. Again, nothing that's too bonkers, but I think it's good to know. So when you create a new file in Drive, default new file permissions should be set to off. If you make a new document, you should be the only one that has access to it. If you create a new document right now and it's shared with the entire organization or shared with a different group, likely that's probably not on purpose, and you should reach out to your Google admin to recommend that they change this or ask why. That way you know who your files are shared with by default. That's just kind of one that likely won't be an issue, but you should check it out. All right, sharing folders. I just was in a GIF mood here, and I added a couple more things here. Sharing folders and files. Let's get granular here, okay? Let's not overshare if we don't need to. Let's share things individually and not wide, and we don't know who has access to what. So we can share folders, we can share subfolders, we can share files. We can have different permissions for everything. You can get really granular with your sharing. Make sure you're choosing the appropriate access levels. Not every member needs to edit everything all the time. Maybe everybody just needs to view the folder, and there are a couple of different people that need to have edit access on a couple of different files. Maybe they only need access for one thing, and then somebody else needs access for another thing. If you're sending out template files, right? Hey, everyone, here's this template, print it out or make a copy of it and send it out. Make sure those are on view only. Don't send them out at edit only, and somebody enters their personal information into the template, and then everybody's making copies of their personal information. You send out a template file, send it out as view only. And expiration times, which I'll show you in a minute. Expiration times are, you want to share something with somebody, whether it's view, comment, edit, but you know what? I only want them to have access to it for a week. I can go ahead and set that up so it automatically expires, and I don't have to remember I have to take those permissions away. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. And then for shared drives have a lot of the same granularity that you can add to access levels, but they're a little bit different. Who can add things, who can edit things, who can delete things, and why. Everybody and nobody owns anything in a shared drive, but you need to go ahead and make sure that the appropriate people are able to add things and delete things in shared drives. So make sure if you're managing a shared drive that you have the right access. So I want to just jump over to Drive real quick and just show you something. So I have this folder called recipes, and I want my entire adult population to be in my organization to be able to view this. But I want to make sure that there are other folks, maybe students, maybe contractors, whoever, that aren't able to get into this. So when I share this, instead of sharing it with my entire domain, I know that we have a group that an email group that has a bunch of the users or all of the users that I want to be able to view this. So maybe that's called adults@cloudasta.com. Doesn't exist, but we'll use it as an example. So I'm going to share this with that group, and I'm going to say everybody in there needs to be an editor or viewer, but I'm not going to send people a notification, because then everybody's going to get a notification that they've been shared on this folder. But this way, if I uncheck this and click share, then I can share a link to that folder, and I know that they all have access to it. This is just a little bit more secure than sharing it with your entire domain, because maybe later down the road, you're going to add folks to the domain that aren't in this group that you didn't actually want access to that. So that's just a little example that you want to add there. So I just want to show off a little bit more of the granularity I was talking about. So let's say I want Nick at CloudHouse and my other email to be able to view this entire folder. Okay, great. Yes, I'm going to share that with Nick. Now this whole folder is shared with Nick. That's super. But this folder, this thing, I want Nick to be the only one that can edit this secret recipe document. So I'm going to go ahead and click share on that secret recipe, and you can see the inherited access from the top level folder is viewer. But I want to be able to change him just for that file to be an editor. So that way, if I had more files in here, he can still be a viewer on all of those, but he could be editor on this one. So that way you can get really granular with how you're sharing things. And what I said before, I'm going to go back up to my top level about the expirations. If I go back into here, after I've shared something with somebody, if I click this and I see I have give temporary access. So what I can do now is I could say, hey, I know I'm giving Nick view access, but I'm going to let it expire in 30 days. Or I'm going to, let's change it. I'm going to have it expire, what's today? On Monday. So they have 4 days. And I'm going to click save. So that way, that's automatically going to go ahead and be removed. I don't have to worry about going back in there, and it's really, really awesome. And I have something in my slide that you can see here on Drive, which is really helpful, is now you can block people in Drive. So if somebody shares something with you and you don't want that user to be sharing things with you, you can just right-click on that file and block that user. It's a newer feature. It might not be rolled out to your domain yet, but something to keep an eye out for. And then very quickly, I only got 1 or 2 things here on calendar that I want to show you about calendar share settings, internal versus external, and how much people can see your calendar. So I'm going to jump over to my calendar here, and I'm going to go into my settings. So if I click settings, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit for you. All right, I'm going to scroll all the way down to my calendar, my Nick test calendar. And I can see these access permissions. Okay, who can see my calendar? So on make available for your domain, so this might be checked off by default. It might be checked on by default. I'm not sure. It'll depend on how your admin has it set up. But you could see what everybody else in my domain can see on my calendar. So the lowest level is that they can see only if I'm free or busy, which is really common. So that way it's easy for them to be able to set up meetings with you, but not actually see what you're doing. If you wanted everybody, maybe you have a smaller group, to be able to see all the details of all the events on your calendar, you could change this to see all event details. And if your admin settings allow it, you can even make it so other folks can make changes. Likely, you're not going to want to do that for everybody in your domain. You're going to want to do one of these top 2, but I'm just showing you what that is. And then we have the similar settings for make available to public. So if I make my calendar available to the public, folks outside of my domain, you can see here, I can only select between see only, free, busy, and they can only see all details. Again, the top level that you can access here is set up in the admin console. So you want to be able to make super many changes there anyway. But I do want you to go into your calendar and see who can see what on your calendar. It is very helpful. Paul's asking, can we make one calendar for the group? Can we make one calendar for the group that everyone can be admins of? Yes. So if I'm hearing your question correct, what I'm going to do, and you can let me know of how I'm going to set this up right now is what you want. I'm going to set up a secondary calendar. So I'm going to click a plus. I'm going to create a new calendar. And for example, in my team, we have a vacation time off calendar, which seems like a common example here. And tell me if I'm off the beaten track here. So I'm going to create that new calendar. And then if I go into that calendar setting, I'm going to scroll on down, and I'm going to share it with specific people, right? So I'm going to share it with my, again, that if I do, I'll share it with my test account. But you could pretend that that's a group, right? Adults at cloudhouse.com. It's the same thing, just adults doesn't exist, right? Adults at cloudhouse.com, right? You can share it with both of those people, and you can set it to anything you want. So make changes to events, and then I'm going to click send, and then you can see now Nick has access to that calendar and can make changes to everybody's events on that calendar. And anybody in the Adults at Cloud Asta group can make changes to anybody's events on that calendar. Paul, is that the example you were going for, or something similar to that? Okay, great. If there's something I didn't touch on that you want me to kind of drill into a little bit more, feel free to unmute. You don't have to turn your camera on if you don't want to, and we can talk about it a little bit more.
Hi.
Hey.
So the group that I'm working with, they at the moment are 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
They've been working in the past with the Google Workspace, and they ended up with about 4 different calendars. So you had one for the company, one
Sure.
for each of the individuals, and then 2 people were delegates. And so when I looked at their screen on their calendar, they had the same event in 4 different colors.
Right.
And so we've, one of the ways they were asking me, can we cut all this out, is can each individual have their own calendar separate from the Google group, and the Google group just have one master calendar for everyone?
Yeah, and I think that's what I totally hear you. I know exactly what you're talking about with that, like a layered everything, especially if it's an all-day event. You can't even see what you're doing today. But just to clarify for everyone, so everybody has a primary calendar, right, which is the one with your name that has all of your default events on it, and then something that has time off or something like that. It's going to be some sort of a secondary or group calendar. There is. I think this is kind of setting up what you're looking for. It's setting up a secondary calendar, and like realistically, if you want it, everybody can have all of these full-blown permissions. And then it's really just one calendar that everybody is editing. I would need to go back and double check if a distribution group itself has a calendar. I don't believe so. So because it's just really just a distribution group. So I think what you're wanting to do is create a secondary calendar like this, and then you can either share it with those specific people, or share it with, if you have an email group, and then it's essentially share with those same people, and then they can all edit that one calendar.
The only question then arises when you create an event and you invite people, the invitations, somebody has to be monitoring that email inbox for the acceptances, I guess.
For the acceptances on this shared calendar? For inviting folks that are not as part of the group?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, likely, my guess would be that the person that would be sending the invite, right, should be monitoring, right, their particular events, right, versus one person. But yes, if you're looking to make sure that who is RSVP'd or who hasn't, yes, somebody's going to have to be checking those events. But I think thinking of it as the event is living here versus just living on my own calendar, that process shouldn't be different. It just feels different because of where it's placed, right? Does that hopefully that makes sense for you guys?
Yeah, it does for me. Thank you.
Awesome, super. Okay, great. The calendar stuff was really the biggest thing. I'm not going to go over the events from Gmail, but the last thing I just want to say about calendars is, trust the event invitation that you're receiving. There was a big push a couple of years ago for spam being sent via calendar events. So folks, spammers would send Google Calendar events aimlessly, and then something would pop up in your calendar, and it would actually be like spam, like a phishing email, but it's as part of a calendar because folks didn't suspect that they would be coming through calendars. It was a big thing a year and a half ago. It doesn't seem to be happening as much lately. But just like trust the invitations that you're getting, and just be careful what you're accepting. Okay, I'm just gonna open it up for any questions. I know we're a little bit over, so folks got to bounce. I totally understand. Any questions that folks might have, and I just want to talk a little bit about our next webinar in a moment. But I want any questions about anything we covered today, or any other issue or question that you may be having. And I'll just kind of pause and mute myself for a minute. feel free to send it in the chat or just unmute and ask a question. Absolutely, Bryce. I hope that you have something here has spoke to you and you're able to take something away from this. When I do these sorts of things, I hope that for everybody there's at least one thing that you can take away. And for me, that as a participant, that feels valuable. When I sit in on webinars, if there's one tangible thing that I could take away, then for me as a participant, it always feels like a success. So hopefully you found at least that one nugget. Okay, feel free again, as I'm just giving my little spiel about our next thing, to throw something in. In 2 weeks, we're going to do, and in case you missed it, workshop for Google Workspace. So this is going to cover anything that's come out in the last couple of weeks. So Google's releasing new, 2-3 features a day, whether it's for end users or for admins. And in 2 weeks, we're going to kind of cull through all of that and try and find the best gems that have come out in the last couple of weeks to a month and just show off those. So it'll be a bit of a potluck of the types of things that we'll show off. But we're hoping that, there will be some new features like the, block a user in Drive feature that maybe you missed that we want to go ahead and make sure that you're aware of. Because we have the time to look at all those new features and you don't, and that's why we're here. So if you have any questions, please register for the that webinar. I'm gonna drop that link right here just so you can. I'm gonna drop it in the chat just so that you can open it up and register now before you forget. If you have any questions or things that you want to look more into, feel free to put it in the little question box when you go ahead and register. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining. Hope everybody has a lovely weekend. And if you have any questions after today, you could always send them to webinars@cloudosta.com. Awesome. Thanks so much, folks. Have a good one.